My name is Corb McCready, and I run a lonely spread where the desert swallows the sky and hope equally. For 5 years I've ridden these dunes, but nothing prepared me for what stood on the alkali flat yesterday. A door, just a door, planted in the sand with no walls, no roof, only a weathered frame against infinity. At first I thought it was a heat mirage or some prank left by a passing wagon train long gone. But when I swung off my horse and touched the wood, it felt real and cold as tombstone marble. I tried the brass knob, but it wouldn't budge, as if locked from the inside by an unseen stubborn hand. That night I told the only other soul on my land, a girl who had no name when I found her. I called her Lila after the desert lily, because she appeared 3 years ago, wandering the dunes without memory or voice. She couldn't recall her childhood, only a faint scent of roses and the lullaby her phantom mother might have sung. When I described the door, her gray eyes widened, and she clutched the silver locket she wore since before I knew her. She had never opened that locket, afraid of the ghost inside, but now she pried it apart with trembling fingers. Inside was a tiny brass key and a scrap of wallpaper patterned with faded violets, the same violet pattern I'd seen. The door, she whispered, her first word in months, and I saddled the horses before dawn even broke the horizon. We rode out into the pink morning, and the door stood waiting like a sentinel of some forgotten covenant between worlds. Lila approached with the key shaking in her hand, and the knob turned for her as easily as a welcome home. The door swung open, and a breath of cool air carrying the scent of rosewater and old cedar washed over us. Beyond the frame was not desert, but a sunlit nursery with a rocking horse and a window overlooking a green garden. Lila stepped through, and I followed, my boots sinking into a soft rug instead of sand. The temperature utterly transformed. She touched the wallpaper, tears streaming, and said, "This was my room, my mother's house. Everything I lost is here." But outside the nursery window, the garden was frozen in a perpetual spring, and no birds sang despite the flowering branches. We explored the house, a grand Victorian with gas lamps flickering, yet no other soul breathed within its silent, preserved walls. In the parlor, a photograph showed a couple with a little girl holding a doll, and Layla knew it was her. She found her mother's shawl draped on a chair, still fragrant, still warm, as if she had just stepped away momentarily. I watched Lila become whole, her memories flooding back, and for a moment I feared she would never want to leave. We discovered the house was destroyed by fire 2 decades ago, yet this doorway preserved a perfect slice of timeless yesterday. Lila's parents perished that night, but somehow the universe carved out a sanctuary for the child she had been back then. Now the door had opened because her soul was finally ready to face the past and make an unthinkable final choice. A voice echoed from the walls, gentle and maternal. "Stay, my darling, and never hurt again in this eternal morning." Lila looked at me with torn eyes, the pull of the phantom home against the raw, dusty life we'd built together. I told her, "I love you enough to let you stay if this is where your heart truly finds its peace." She touched my face, and I saw the decision tearing her apart like a letter caught in a cruel wind. We walked back to the nursery, and she sat on the rocking horse, a child and a woman in one body. I knelt beside her and said, "But if you stay, I'll lose you, and the desert will swallow my soul." She smiled through tears and said, "The past is a beautiful cage, Cord, but you are my real and breathing tomorrow." She took my hand and walked me to the threshold where the hot desert air met the artificial, lilac-scented breeze. With one last look at her mother's shawl, she stepped through the door back onto the burning sand, her grip tight. The moment we crossed, the door slammed shut, and the key in her locket glowed red-hot before crumbling to silver dust. The frame began to weather instantly, cracking, and then it collapsed into a pile of aged splinters and drifting sand. Lila wept against my chest, but they were not tears of loss. They were tears of a prisoner finally set free. We watched the last wooden sliver dissolve, and the desert wind erased every trace of the miracle that had stood there. We rode home in silence, and that evening she finally spoke her true name. Evangeline Rose, but still Layla to me. She remembered everything now. The fire, the escape, the wandering, and the amnesia that had mercifully shrouded her grief. But she also remembered the love of parents who would have wanted her to live forward, not backward in frozen time. We built a new room onto my cabin, with violet wallpaper and a rocking horse. Not as a memorial, but a promise. Lila, now Evangeline, became my wife under a desert moon with a preacher from Tucson and the stars as witnesses. She planted a rose garden where the door had vanished, and the bushes bloomed outrageously in defiance of the arid soil. Folks said it was a miracle spring, but I knew it was the love she'd brought back from that timeless place. For years, we told the story to anyone who would listen of a door that gave a woman her past and future. Curious travelers came to see the spot, but only those who truly loved could feel the faint scent of roses lingering. Lila would press her ear to the ground and say she could still hear her mother's lullaby humming through the roots. I held her each night, grateful she chose raw, honest reality over the perfect, painless dream of a preserved nursery. We learned that some doors are not meant for us to stay behind, but only to retrieve the pieces we abandoned. My Lila became the heart of the McCready Ranch, turning it from a barren holding into a home full of laughter. She bore 2 daughters with her storm gray eyes, and we named them after the grandmothers who dwelled in 2 different worlds. We never saw another phantom door, but sometimes at dusk, the horizon would shimmer with a doorway only our hearts recognized. When the great drought of '89 hit, the rose garden never withered, and folks called it the doorkeeper's blessing from above. I grew old with my hand in hers, and the story of that impossible threshold became a local legend often told. She passed before me, and on her last morning, she smiled and said, "The door is opening again, Cord. Forgive me." I held her as she slipped away, and I swear I felt a cool breeze smelling of rosewater brush across my face. I buried her beneath the roses, and I still go there to listen, certain that she's in both worlds now, forever free. Please subscribe to Stories Hub Official, smash that like button, and tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Would you step through a door to your lost childhood? Or hold on to the love that walks beside you today? May every desert of your life bloom with the roses of hard choices bravely made. Until our next tale, farewell.